How dare you want to rest? How many times have we heard the mantra, I'll rest when I'm dead? For many, that was not just a saying. We were raised to believe that staying busy meant we were being responsible, that the constant movement was a way of surviving, of measuring our worth and our strength. Our thinking, was programmed to believe that resting, giving our body what it needed, was a form of laziness. When in fact, that building of that mindset, the building of that habit of not resting, did not just appear out of nowhere. Our relationship with rest was shaped and made by capitalism.
Great things, great things, great things. Welcome into Words on a Higher Note, our space to reflect, reset, rise, and remember who we really are beneath the layers. I'm your host, Jay Lynn, and I am so glad you're here. Today, I am not alone. I have some guests with me today. I have Atia, I have Gina Ashe, Robin, and Yvette. How are you all doing today?
Good.
Well,
Good?
doing well.
All right,
Yes.
great to hear. And today we are reflecting on the making of our relationship with rest. And the need to have this discussion took place after I started reading the book Rest is Resistance by Tricia Hersey, which was recommended by Atia, I might say. I was 26% in, and I thought, I know so many people who don't adequately rest, including myself. And we go around like we're the Energizer bunny, and just keep going and keep going and keep going. And we think that that's progress. We think that that's saying that we are making progress or that we that's what we have to do. Not resting is more than a personal habit. It is much deeper than that. And the way we rest is often formed by what we say, what we inherited, and what the world has rewarded us for not resting. And today I want us to talk about rest, not just as sleep, not just as taking naps, and not just as self care language. I want us to talk about rest as permission, as restoration, as a space, as humanity. Because for so many people, especially within the Black experience, rest has been interpreted by labor, by pressure, by survival, and the belief that worth must be earned. So I want us to just kind of dive in. Again, the title is Rest is Resistance. And what are we resisting against when we rest? And I don't want us to answer that yet because I think the discussion will provide the answer. I just want that question to be in our minds. And so in the book, Tricia Hersey says that capitalism and white supremacy have shaped a culture that teaches us to measure our worth by how much we produce, how long we can endure, and how little rest we require. And I know if you all are guilty of this, but I know I am guilty of not resting. And you call, and again, most of us on here are educators, and I know that educators do not rest. We just don't. We think that it's guilty if we rest. And I don't know if the other ones want to chime in and raise their hand and say, yes, that's what we do. And and so she also reminds us that rest is the foundation of healing, imagination, and reclaiming our humanity. And Dr. Ava Muhammad was speaking about the creative mind. And she said, and I'm paraphrasing, she said, if we feel insecure in any way with regards to basic needs, our survival mechanism is working. And as long as the survival mechanism is on green, our creative mechanism is shut down. So we cannot stay stuck in survival mode if we're trying to be creative. And work. I know you all have heard the frame, the rat race. And I'm like, why do they call it the rat race? Why is work considered the rat race? And if you think about a rat, and and if you see like a bunch of them, they all going around in a circle trying to get something, usually food, but they're trying to get something. And it's the rat race is exhausting. It's a competitive cycle where people are running for money, for status, for stability, or survival. And it's with very little room to rest. And now we only get 24 hours in a day, and we barely have enough room to get through that day, let alone to dream beyond that day. So, if survival is the goal, creativity becomes a luxury. And it is the constant need to keep moving to keep us that keeps us disconnected from our true selves. So I just want you all to chime in at this point. And what do you think rest is? And what is your relationship with rest?
I think the last I used to sleep well. As I've gotten older, I don't know, here lately, it hasn't been like fulfilling to say. I've been waking up in the middle of the night, and I walked the floor. I did all those old things that I saw my mother do.
Mm,
I'd walk the floor, I get up, and it's just like, okay. But now, here in the past week or so, my husband used to call me the champion napper. That's what I used to do, but I can't do that any longer. And I'm not sure why. The
mm,
book kind of said a couple of things, and it's like, okay, okay.
mm.
But it's sleep has it sometimes it's just something you need. I know you need it, and I just don't get it like I need to. And health issues come about. I know it's connected to health issues.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? You on mute, Atia. We don't hear you.
The mic was muted, but the computer wasn't. My relationship with rest has been a fascinating endeavor in the past 6 years. Um, and I've essentially been forced to not move as much because of my health. And that has been very interesting because I don't know, or I did not know, and I still kind of don't know who I am if I'm not doing something or creating something or making something. And it's funny because Kiki Palmer recently dropped a therapy, not therapy, a podcast episode on her channel, and she was interviewing Jennifer Lewis, who's hilarious. But one of the things that Jennifer Lewis said is that there is no cure for sleep deprivation, and there is a sleep deprivation crisis, but there is no cure for it. So you can't make up sleep, you can't make up rest. Like once you lose it, it's gone. And I've been dealing with that and just trying to make it so that rest is an active thing and it's not necessarily a bad thing and I don't have to earn it. That's something I've been working on in therapy, is that I don't need to earn the right to rest. I can just rest because my body needs rest, and or my mind needs rest, or something needs rest. But it's been an interesting endeavor. Rest and I are still working through our issues.
Okay.
I think of rest as being a place, a stillness. Um, so I have a lot of people that I know who are always frenetic and they're always running from place to place. And because I've always been an avid reader, I've always kind of had this like little oasis of silence when I would go into my books and my imagination would play. And that's why I like physical books or books that I can read rather than audio books, because then it's my imagination that's coming into play, interpreting the words, as opposed to when I listen to a book, I feel I'm getting somebody else's interpretation of the characters. Um, So I don't have a problem with being still, but I guess I think of restful places like being outside or being surrounded by greenery. Definitely the water. When the author talked about being near the water, I find that, just going to the beach and sitting on the sand and just watching the waves is very relaxing. Um, but I do think that as a nation, as a people, and as women, we are sleep deprived. One, because of our lifestyles, but then also I think our reliance on technology. So when you go to bed, you don't necessarily go to bed. You may go to bed and scroll through your phone for a little bit or watch TV for a little while. And so you don't really give your brain a chance to shut down. Um, but I found it interesting with the author when, we're so embedded in this culture where you think you are supposed to be hustling. Now, I've never subscribed to you have to have 10 jobs. If you don't have 10 jobs, you're lazy. But, we are brought as I think as a culture and as a country, is that you're supposed to be doing something most of the time. And, just sitting still is not. Because even when you think about as educators, if you have kids in your class and they're daydreaming, you're like, well, we kind of need you to focus on what we're doing and what we're saying. And I think we're in the past decade or so, we've been trying to focus on individual learning styles and kind of to get to know the kid so that the kid who has their head down and they're doodling, they're not just messing around, but that's how they're synthesizing the information. That's okay. Um, versus one who may just be staring out the window because you're boring them silly and you need to do something to kind of re-engage them. Um, so I just found some of the concepts expressed in the book to like, made me just think about, okay, how do I play into this? Um, the whole capitalistic type of thing. And going back to why is it a rat race? It's a race because there's winners and losers. And if you're not at the front of the pack, then, well, you're losing. And then rats, because rats are not, as far as I know, are not known to be, warm and cuddly creatures. And, they'll claw each other out the way. And that's kind of like where we're pitted against each other in our careers and things of that nature. So looking for a more collaborative, connected way of dealing with people would definitely be a big mind shift.
So my relationship with rest is evolving. I have been I have called myself a night owl since I was probably a child, and just able to stay up for days, just not sleeping. And I remember, like Ati was saying, how you cannot get rest. I remember I was at this temp job in the 80s, and I think I took off or something. I was telling the supervisor that I was tired. And she's like, well, you can't get that. There's no such thing as making up sleep. And that was the first time I had heard that no matter how much time you sleep, you cannot make up what you missed. But I just recently, I guess maybe within the past 3 to 6 months, maybe I've tried to get more rest, and most probably because my body is forcing me to rest. Meaning I can just like go to sleep with no problem. I can just like nap. But still, even in the 3 to 6 months that I've been trying to or consciously rest a little more, there are times where I will stay up all night and I'm exhausted, but I feel that I have to accomplish something. I need to do something. Something needs to be finished, and I need to do it by a certain time. So with that mindset, I will stay up and push through it, because once if it's on my mind, I gotta have to kind of complete it. because in this age of aging, sometimes I may not remember, so I have to do it while it's in the forefront of my mind. So my relationship with rest is evolving, and hopefully I can learn to get more rest. And I definitely related to what she was saying about the grind culture and how we just have to keep moving and keep moving. And again, if we're not moving, we're not being productive.
Yeah.
And so we have to kind of get away from that. I don't know if you all have heard of Brian Tracy, and he's a motivational speaker, and he usually speaks to people who are in business. And I recently read his book called No Excuses. And in his books, he's talking about self discipline and just how, to make progress, you have to do A, B, and C. And again, he's talking about the grind culture. But in his book, even though he's talking about the grind culture, in his book, he says that high achievers treat their physical energy as a strategic asset. But then he also says that you cannot practice effective self discipline or time management if you are constantly burning yourself out and neglecting sleep. And so we may think that that's what we have to do in order to be successful, but it's actually counterproductive when we're not sleeping, because when we're not sleeping, we're tired and we're exhausted. We're not functioning on a high enough level to even be to perform at our highest potential. And so let me ask a question. Can we presume that if we learn to slow down, learn to rest, if we begin to daydream, that we can reconnect with our wisdom, our creativity, and the possibility of another way of living? Because we've been going like this as adults, pretty much probably all of our adult life. Can we relearn?
I hope so.
Definitely.
I hope so. I think, and I didn't realize how tied to rest my creativity was until I was in a position where I was overworked and undersupported, but still expected to creatively show up. And no matter how hard I tried, it did not work. Like that creative aspect that was needed from me was never materialized because I truly just did not have the capacity to do that on top of everything else I was doing. And then even now with the content I create, I find that I have so many ideas, maybe too many ideas. I have so many ideas. And when I'm not my best, I don't have that same overflow of creativity and that same desire to create that I have when I'm rested or when I feel adequately up to par and not burnt out.
Okay. Um, and I can agree with that. That I'm going to make a confession here. When I was building words on a higher note before it actually hit the ground and started running, a lot of ideas was coming. I mean, I have a list of different topics that I wanted to talk about, a long list. But then when I started producing and started putting it out there and started working, I found that the creativity or the ideas are not as fast coming. They're still coming, but it's not as fast. And I'm like, well, is it because I'm so busy trying to put it together that my creativity is not is not what it was? So I definitely can relate to when you're working, that you may not be as creative as you were, especially if it's about survival.
What I like, one of the things I like that the author said was that when we're thinking about rest, is that it needs to be intentional. It's not just sitting on the couch and dozing off, or it's a certain time, let me get in bed. but it's about carving out space and time and saying it's important for me to, whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or half an hour, to just carve out this time for me and to do whatever I need to do, whether it's to just sit there in silence or to take a nice shower and let the ideas flow, or to sit there with a pen in your hand and just free write whatever comes into, and see if there's something that you can launch off. And so I think the intentionality to me would make a difference. So it's not that you still don't need to do whatever it is in your life you need to do in order to maintain, but you also need to take that time to recharge your batteries.
If I could add something, I would 100% agree with intentionality, because what I was going to say earlier was, and this is Gina, what I was going to say earlier was, sometimes when I come home from work, I knock out. And then other days I come home from work and I'm still a functioning creature. And I've been having this battle with my family, like, I'm tired, and so I just need to sleep. But that's not rest. That's emotional fatigue from a long day. And being intentional about rest is different, because you're pausing whatever is next on your list of obligations, and you're saying to yourself that I'm going to restore, and I'm gonna feed myself. So what I hear you say is rest is also self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, self-care can be difficult when you don't, it's not that I'm not caring for myself, but I'm happy. I just got a lot of things to do. It's like, I don't know, like, how am I resting and self-caring? Like, what is that? I just need to get things done, even when I'm not trying to. Like, I'm not trying not to get things done, but if they don't get done, then there's an avalanche. So it's like a cycle.
Okay. And when we think about our relationship with rest, and it, again, like I said earlier, it probably started, we've probably been engaged in this not resting since we were adults. But where do you think it started? It started home. Where did you first see the relationship with not resting, aka the grind culture? Where did you see it at first?
When I got my first job.
And
And
approximately how old were you?
um well, I can't say the first one because the first one was New York City's I was 13, but probably say early 20s. I mean really early 20s. Um I was a young single mother, and there just weren't enough hours in the day. And then I was like you, I was a night owl. So I had to learn to try and sleep because that little boy was going to get up in the morning. And then here I am. I'm still, I've got to be on my grind.
Mhm.
Had to get on it and do, the things that just needed to be done. And I noticed I got less and less sleep. I was like you, there were days where I know I had been awake 24 hours. I The scariest thing, the last time I did this in New York, I know, I was standing on the subway platform, and I had been out somewhere, and I was with a group of people, so that's what saved me. Um I had been awake probably 48 hours, not sleeping, doing whatever I had to do. And I was 1 minute I was standing there, the next minute I had passed out
Mm.
because I hadn't gotten enough sleep. I've never done that anymore, but I can always tell when I've not gotten enough sleep because you don't feel good.
Mm-mm.
You just feel so bad. And that's where I knew where it started for me, because and it was nothing. It was it was nothing to not sleep. I'm better at it now, but there are sometimes my husband will wake up in the middle of the night and he'll peek his head around the door, and it's like, hey, what are you doing up? The same thing. Yep.
I think for me, I chuckle because of who I'm on here with. I rest was not modeled. Um, it wasn't modeled, and when she talked about there's a part in the book where she talks about her father
Mm-hmm.
and how not resting essentially killed him,
Mm-hmm.
and how that is like an epidemic in the Black community, but specifically for Black men. And so I don't remember seeing my father when I grew up resting. He would sleep, and we knew not to go near the bear essentially when he was asleep. But it was just like, okay, he's tired, like he needs to sleep. And even just like as a child, I was always in something or doing something, like having activities and things like that, to the point where I remember I was in college and I was a theater major. And at one point, I was working on 3 productions at the same time, which is kind of wild. But they went up in January, February, and then March. And when I was done with the third one, I said to my partner, I was like, I don't know what to do now. I have all this free time. I don't know like, what am I supposed to do? I literally sat in my room for an hour and just stared at my mini fridge. And because my brain was empty, there was nothing else occupying my brain. And he was like, well, this is good. You can like rest now, and you can like, you don't have to worry about the next tech week. You don't have to worry about the next play going up or anything like that. I was like, yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. And then I signed up to be a stage reader for a stage reading just so I had something else to do. And so I had something else I could say I was doing because the idea of not having something was this foreign concept to me. And basically, I didn't know how to deal with it. I still kind of don't know how to deal with it, but I'm being forced to.
Okay. All right. I started growing up. I didn't see that in my household. I didn't see the grind culture in my household. My mother became a stay-at-home mom when I was born. She went back to work when I was 13, going on 14. So I didn't see that growing up. I didn't see the grind culture growing up. And even after she went back to work, I didn't see it. I started living it my third year in college. I was going to school full time and I was working full time. And why was I doing that? Because I needed to survive. My mother stopped taking care of me when I went to college, right? So I had to figure out a way to take care of myself. Thankfully, I was still living at home, but I still had to take care of my financial needs. So I, again, started working full time, going to school full time, and I had to figure it out. Sometimes I would my college. I had 2 locations. It was one in Long Island, one in Manhattan, and to graduate on time, I had to take classes out in Long Island, and the class would end like 10:40 at night. And thankfully the professor would let us out at 10 o'clock, but I still had to catch the train to come back into Manhattan to come back to Brooklyn, if you know that whole thing. So I wasn't getting home until after 11 o'clock. And so, but then I had to turn around, go to sleep, get up in the morning and go to work. And so that's when the grind culture happened for me, because again, as she says in the book, it's all about survival. That's what we're taught. It's all about how do we survive? How do we make money? And that's where we haven't brought up this word yet. The capitalism comes into play, that we are taught in order to exist in this world that we in, we have to make money, because this world that we know of is built on capitalism.
Mhm.
So that's when it started for me, and quite honestly, it hasn't finished. So still working on it. Still working on it.
I think I got caught into the capitalism trap and I didn't realize it. Like, I don't think the grind culture was in my household either. And I do think, like, what you all just said, it happened when I was in college. But mine's happened a bit different. I'm just a naturally outgoing person and I have a lot of ideas. And so even when I was in undergrad, I didn't stay home. I was president of this club. I was volunteering here. I was also working because my family couldn't afford to give me petty cash. And so if I needed petty cash, I had to work for it. And what that translated to was that I was always on the go. And then I got into the movement and like just doing things for the movement. And that became as my job in the movement became a paying job, it I was still passionate, I still loved it, but then I also realized that I was becoming emotionally just drained. And then as I grew older, it became, okay, you're working full time, you're volunteering full time, all for the movement, and now you don't have a space to rest because what you do, you love what you do, and it's just like, when are you stopping and saying, now I'm just going to pause for myself? And I think that happened because I was always, either trying to help somebody or trying to create something. And now it's like, oh, well, now I need the money. So now I have to keep working. And that's when the cycle really began.
Robin, did it ever start for you? Do you remember?
Um, no, not really. It's more like being aware and watching other people. I have to say, you came to mind when I start reading this book because I always think of you as doing like 40 different things. And I'm just like sitting there going, wow, I made it to work today. Yay. You know? So, like I said, I've just never felt the need to do like 101 things at the same time. And for the most part, I've had jobs, other than the last place I work with, that paid me fairly well. So I wasn't necessarily in survival mode. But because I had those previous jobs that did pay me well, when I came to an institution where I believed in the mission, but the funding wasn't there, I was still able to deal. Um, but it's pervasive. I mean, I just think it's the whole, as I said earlier, I think that's just, it's all in the culture around us. Go for more. You just can't stop. Even, in school, it's kind of like, oh, okay, you got a 95. What happened to the other 5 points?
Go get them. Yeah.
you know so again, I think it's just so pervasive that you don't even think about it. You're just like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. I think where it becomes debilitating is where, if you're not making a living wage and you're having to work 2, 3 jobs just to support yourself and your family, and then if you want to try to do something for your community or for your church, it's just, okay, I just have to burn this candle at both ends in order to do this.
That goes back to Miss Atia's point about being supported. And I think support is the straw on the camel's back, as they say, in terms of how much we can go. Because especially when you're a creative person, we have all of these ideas and aspirations. But if you're in one single space and you're not supported, but you see how your dream can be reality, then it's like, or out of necessity, you need to work, 2 or 3 jobs, but you're not being supported. Then that's when, you know, this your rope starts fraying, sorry. And I think in the Black community, because of systematic racism, we just have so many things that we conquer daily. And so support and rest is very necessary, as clearly you can hear from my neighbor's argument.
um Something that, I mean, there's a lot in this book that resonate with me. I tabbed it up and everything, but one thing she talks about is being a maroon from capitalism. And so basically what she's saying is that the maroon communities were Black people who freed themselves, They self-emancipated and they made communities, and they existed and thrived separate from a white supremacist capitalist environment or society. And I guess the question I want to pose to the group is, does being a maroon from capitalism resonate with you? Like the idea of that, does that resonate with you? um I wish I was a maroon from capitalism.
Me too.
You know what's funny is I'm getting like getting out here in my garden. My husband, he and I talk about him a lot because it's just the two of us. You know, I have one child. He's 500 and some odd miles away from me. You know, um, my garden. You know, everything that I have out there, I'm growing things that so that I don't have to go to the grocery store. You know, I the seeds I get. I make sure the even the flowers that I plant, I make sure I plant things that I can take a seed from and grow it next year. You know, I'm getting to the place where I don't want to have to depend on what's out there because I'm afraid of what's out there. You don't know what's out there. You know, the things that are out there are kind of scary. That's why I'm learning to make my own soap. You know, I want to make my own detergent. You know, get to those things where if once I can get there, then maybe I don't have to be so dependent on on this, because this system doesn't work for me, because a lot of times they'll look at me and they'll, all right, you're black but you're not black, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. And it's like, no. Every day I wake up, that's who I am. And that plays a part in that that trying to get away from the things of them, and then learning, and then I've got to know how to rest, because if I can't, who's going to be here to do this thing here for me? Because if I'm not resting and I get sick, then he's got to take care of me, he's got to take care of himself, he's got to take care of my stuff, and on and on and on and goes. So now I need to figure out I have to figure out how to get away from all of that. It's just like, oh, okay, darn, it's a circle. It's just that race. And how do you do it?
I mean, I think that I definitely agree with us coming together and depending on one another. And that's why you have the community gardens in our community, and where you go and you have a spot and you plant your food. I was telling my mother, I was out in my garden, and I was just telling her, I was like, "Oh, I have a bell pepper." I was so happy. Right? I'm like,
Wait a minute, you didn't tell me that.
I'm like, wait a minute, I have a tomato. I have two baby tomatoes. And then she was asking me, well, how many things do you have? So she wanted to know how large it was. And I told her, it's tiny. She said, well, how many things do you have in there? I told her, she's like, oh, you're going to have a lot of stuff. I said, that's the plan. The plan is to grow and be able to make what we need, so we do not have to go out and purchase. Not that we're not going to be able to purchase, not that we can not purchase anything, but for the majority of our needs, that we can sustain ourselves. Because first of all, like Yvette said, she's afraid to go out there and get the products, because most of the products are probably, they're not quality. Like, for instance, years ago, we started using red onions, and the red onions didn't make me cry. Right, the yellow ones did, but the red onions didn't. And I was cutting a red onion yesterday, and my eyes started tearing. And I was like, I was telling Idea, I said, something's going on with these onions, because, and she was like, oh, did you do it under cold water? I'm like, no, before I didn't do it under cold water, but they didn't make me tear up. And I said, it's probably not real. Right, something is going on with the onions, because again, previously I didn't have an effect on me. So we have to secure our own. We have to use the heirloom seeds, like Yvette was talking about, where they'll grow over and over again each year. Don't get the hybrid, because they can't regrow themselves. And so we have to have our own community, even if it's within your own space, to have what you need to grow and to make. And then if you have to go outside, make sure you're going outside to people who are like-minded, so that you all are working together to create something that will sustain you and your
And
family.
you see, my thing is what did I do? When you were talking about seeds, it's like, okay, hold up, I got good stuff here. Take this, and that's what I want. That's what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to be the one that has those things, that because I want to be able I want us as a family, to be able to say, okay, we're okay. Even though you are X amount of miles away from me, I still want to be able to say, okay, she's all right. I was able to, to do this, or we can do this, that together. Just, yeah, because it's scary out there. And they don't, and, she was saying something about, when it came, capitalism started on the plantation. you know I, that touched me so much. It was so awful, you know it was so awful because, people say, how do you, what's such a bad thing? First off, the first bit of that, that your labor, you made us make babies, and you took those. Then you made us, after we drop a baby, you make us work your farm. And you made money off of this. You made money off of this. And then what tears me more than anything is to hear someone say, well, we didn't take you, they sold you to us. Yeah, but they didn't realize what they were selling us into. They didn't realize we'd be locked up for 400 years. So, okay, I'll get on I'll
I want to chime in on this one. So there's someone who I know who this morning shared with me that he was incarcerated, and he was talking about his experience and what he do now. So right now he works for Amazon, and him and his friends were kind of joking because they were saying, yeah, bro, you were sleeping at the red light. And because of his situation in life, he feels like he wants to get out of that position working at Amazon. But how many choices do you have as a Black man, right? And so when I was listening to him, I was sharing this concept of us being connected to capitalism, and how if you are tired, then you need to rest. And it took a while before he agreed with me. And it was just like, this man has been enslaved, right? And so even just to talk about this concept, he was like, no, but I do rest. I was resting at the red light, and it took a while before I said, that's not what God want us to do. That's not why you were born into this world, right? And so I'm glad you brought that point up. Just wanted to.
yeah.
It's interesting that you said he works for Amazon. One of my side hustles is driving for Amazon, right? And the other day I went, and I guess it was Thursday, and it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And what I noticed was that there were 3 cars, no, 4 cars, and parents were driving the cars, but in the back were children. So, and I mean, when I say children, I mean 5, 4 years old and into maybe like preteen or teenager. And I was like, wow, it's the whole family driving. But then I'm like, probably because they don't have anybody to watch their children and they have to go out here and hustle. And, it's sad. It's sad that we are in a position that we have to hustle for one. And for two, we have to bring our children along with us
and
because,
and for
Especially,
three, we think that it's okay for us to have this hustle.
yes, I totally agree. So it's like, that was just, I'm like, wow. And I mean, with the first car, I was like, okay, it was a husband and wife. And then I noticed, oh, wait a minute, there's a child back there. And then little later on, I saw one car, two cars, three cars. And to the fact that, I mean, this one mother, she had so many boxes that she couldn't even take all of the boxes
Hmm.
because her children were, she had two children with her, a small one and a large, an older one. And she couldn't even take all the boxes because her children were in the car with her. And I was like, wow. And, good that you can hustle, not so good that they have to be with you, and not so good that you don't have someplace safe that they can be while you're out here hustling.
Right.
I read something. It was on Instagram. It was one of those informational posts about how for so many centuries women have raised communities and raised the next generation in community. And it's only because of late stage capitalism that parenting has become a singular thing where you have like just two parents and they're supposed to just like figure it out. And it's supposed to be that there is an older generation or like that intermediary generation that is stepping in to help watch the children, when they're on breaks, summer vacation, or when you need a rest or something like that. And what you just said reminded me of that because it's like we're also at a point where the generation that should be retired cannot retire.
Exactly.
And so then you have a new generation, even my generation, the latter half of my generation that came to the workforce. And it's like, where are the jobs you said there were? Where's the growth you said there was? And then you have Gen Z who's also now adults and they're just, I mean, they're over it, which great for them. I love that for them. But it's also just like everyone can't be working. Everyone shouldn't be working, one, but everyone cannot be working. Like you should not have elderly people who
80-year
are
olds still working
yes,
because
you
they
should
have to.
not. And they shouldn't have to worry that like if they stop working, I'm thinking about my grandmother, if they stop working, that they're not going to have enough means to take care of their bills.
Right.
And outside of the incarcerated group of people, you also have to think about people with disabilities. And because there's like a rise of people saying I have this or that, there's families where it's like, who's going to help us?
Mm-hmm.
You're right. And going back to community, my mother, she, again, I'm number 5 out of 6. And as I said, she stopped working when I was born, but she was working for the ones before me. And she was able to work because she had a sister and she had her mother. And they was her community helping her raise the children. And so community is very important. And we are in this singular mindset where it's just the parents. And I know for me, it was just me and my husband. And you know, he was working all the time at some point. So it was pretty much just me. And I remember when I had my son, I had a kind of like a hard time. And somebody asked me, well, where's your community at? And my family, I'm in Westchester, and my family was in Brooklyn. And so not that they weren't there, they just wasn't close by.
Close. Yeah.
And I wasn't driving at that time. So getting to them was hard. I remember one time my husband and I wanted to go to the movies. And we literally took the children out to Brooklyn for my mother to watch. And the movie was, by the time we got to the movies, we couldn't get in. So we had to go to a later show where we didn't get out of the show until maybe like 1 o'clock. And we called my mother and we was gonna go again. We're in Westchester. We was gonna go to Brooklyn and pick them up. My mother was like, no, let them stay here overnight. This way we're not coming to get them disturbing her, I guess, right? But she said, no, just let them stay. And so, we do need the community, and the community may not mean our blood relatives. It may just mean people that we can trust with our families, and just be able to, and again,
There is that part though.
yeah,
The
we have to trust.
trust.
We have to trust. And I didn't trust everybody with my children, and I hopefully that anybody that I trusted them with was good to them, but we didn't trust. I remember when my first child was born. Again, I'm in Westchester. I was going to literally take this child out to Brooklyn for my mother and my sister, one of them, to watch her. And one of the sisters said to me, "Well, no," because she was right down the block from me. But I didn't even think about her. I didn't even think to take my child down there. I was taking her to my family. And even if I was in labor, I was going to drive out to Brooklyn and take her there. And the sister kind of said to me, "No, you can bring her to us," and that was fine. And I trusted her enough to do that. But she was not my first thought at all.
Can I try?
Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to say something about community, and a conversation that I was in a couple of weeks ago. It was just my family, and someone brought up the point of absentee fathers, and they were curious about when, not just when did it start, but when did it become okay for fathers to leave their families in the Black community. And there's so much around that. But while Miss Laus was talking, I was thinking about how we build community and how sometimes our community falter because somebody leaves. And when that person leaves, there's no one else to step in. And it's like, what do we do? How do we rest moving forward? How do we restore moving forward?
Well, going to when it started, I think when it started in mass was during
The
probably
introduction
the
of welfare
60s,
system.
70s, with when we decided we needed welfare. Because when we got on welfare, they needed to monitor everything that happened. So if you went down and needed help, and I'm going to say my mother, when she had me, then she stopped working, so she needed an income, and she went and she got on social services, and in doing that, now they're making visits to the home, and they're looking. So the man couldn't be in the home because if he was in the home, they were not giving you money. And so then, and I don't know if anybody's seen the movie Claudine, right?
Mhm.
And I remember my father being there. So there was a couple of things I remember. I remember how they would knock on the door and we would start scrambling because you had to hide things. You had to hide the iron, you had to hide the toaster, because if they didn't pay for it, you could not have it. And also, I remember my father having to hide on the fire escape. And so when did it happen? It happened when we decided we was going to go to them for support. And then they said the father can't be in the home or we're not going to support you. Now that's our community. That's not every community, because
Mhm.
I used to work my first jobs at 14 and 15. I worked in social services in New York City social services. And the people who were coming there, getting all the money and all the support, didn't look like us. So that was our community that they were doing that to. So that's how they said, okay, well, the father needs to leave the house
And
because we were asking for a little bit of money.
it was also exacerbated by the war on drugs as well,
Yes.
and the changing of those laws.
Yeah.
And they definitely, and it was amazing to me to look back at it, and people still say, "Oh, well, we gave you help." No, you destroyed the family. You destroyed the Black family, because as long as it was a Caucasian family, you paid them if he was in the home. You gave them all the help you could possibly think of giving them. But the minute we decided we needed help and we qualified for it, the rules changed.
And continues today because
Mm-hmm.
we have what they call the cliff effect happening. That if you want to take a raise even on your job. Now you're balancing, what does it look like for me to earn $35,000 versus what does it look like for me to earn $28,000 or whatever the legal cutoff is. I'm not quoting those amounts, but there's a cutoff with for how much money a family can make and still get benefits. And you find every day people grappling with that decision with, how do I support my family but also get these benefits, but then at the same time I can't have a stable relationship because I need these benefits. And none of that is helping you become self-determining. And it's like that just feeds into whether or not you can actually rest. And
What is your, because she also talks about, she being the author, she also talks about social media and just how social media has become so pervasive in our lives, and also how social media has rapidly exacerbated the effects of capitalism. And I know for me, I grew up in that, I'm part of that that generation that, like, I remember dial up. I remember when, my mom was on the phone, I could not also be on the computer. I know what a fax machine is and does, and I remember floppy disk and all the things, and I remember the first iPhone. I remember when we made that transition from, like, an iPod Touch to an iPhone, and how we went from very analog-ish, kind of, a little bit, to, mini computer, as my dad calls them, mini computers in our pockets. And so it's been an interesting relationship for me, at least, with social media, because I remember a time without it, but at the same time, it is so ingrained in what I do and how I operate. And even like now, like, I make content, and I make content on social media. Like, those are my two, that's my thing. And it's been such an interesting journey trying to pick moments when I have to disconnect from social media, or when I just, like, schedule the post or post the post and then I get off the app, because I can scroll. And so I'm wondering, like, what are y'all's relationship with social media? And especially because I think all of you are older than me, but 3 of you are definitely in a different generation than me. So what does
What you
that
trying to
look
say?
like
I'm
to you?
old, huh?
You're wise. You're
I'm
Well,
wise.
picking, baby.
it's funny, Atia, because now they're saying that it's the grandparents they can't get off the screens, and that I think, as you said, it is pervasive. It's just, what are you using? I think maybe a lot of older people might be on Facebook or something like that, but they're still on it, and they're still scrolling. So I mean, I think you could waste a lot of hours just looking at nothing or
Wow.
commenting on nothing, um, and keeping from going to bed on time because, again, let me just look at one more thing, or let me not turn off the phone. Um, I had one friend where she's trying to send inspirational things, but I was like, you are driving me nuts. My phone is pinging every 5 seconds. I'm like, I don't need all this stuff. And it's like, I didn't want to block her, because if she called or text, I wanted to see that. But I don't need to know everything that you do on YouTube. I mean, because it was just a constant barrage. And sorry, that wasn't my intent. I just wanted to share. This was interesting. And it's like, some of this. And so, it got to the point I didn't even look to see. It might have been interesting. I was just delete, delete, delete.
It's know your audience.
Yes.
Know your audience. Y'all know.
I went to a nursing home and they changed the way you sign in. So for years, it's just pen and paper. And the last time I went, they had this machine where they take a picture of your face and you do
Mm.
all this stuff. I said to the security guard, who I don't know how old he was, but he looked like maybe he was in his 60s. I said, why are we doing this? What's going on? And he said, it's easier. I said, I don't know what to do. So all the old people were trying. I'm sorry, all the older people were trying to help me. And then finally they gave up and said, it's okay, just go in.
And try not to kill any of the residents.
It's interesting. It's interesting. You said the older people were helping you, where the younger people are supposed to be more tech savvy.
Yeah, he said
Think
to me,
about
but you got
this.
a phone. He kept
No,
saying,
no.
but you got a phone, but you got a phone. I said that doesn't mean anything. I'm not doing everything on my phone. And
Mm.
I don't want to do this. But why you need my picture now? Before, all you needed was my name and my signature, and I go in and I visit. But now you're asking for my picture and all this other stuff. Why?
Mm.
Things are so funny. You have to remember, they don't realize what generation are we?
I have no idea. Are we X? I have no idea.
We're Gen
Are,
Z.
are we the? No, we X, aren't we? Aren't we
No,
X? Aren't we the unknown?
no.
Still a Gen
You.
X.
What year were you born?
Who?
You.
So you were
Like
the
two.
baby boomers.
I'm born in '66. I'm not a boomer. I'm the generation after the
You're Gen
boomers.
X. You're Gen
I'm
X.
Gen
Oh, so
X.
she's X. I'm not X.
Yeah, you are X. Yeah.
I'm on the crust
Yeah.
of
Because
X and Boomer.
60, 65, I think 65 and younger, that's that was Gen X. Well, what people fit Gen Z, or is it Gen Z?
X.
Is it
I
Gen
think
X?
X is first.
We are actually the generation of gamers. We are the ones that
Oh,
started gaming. My sister and Aisha is blown away with the fact that I could care less that my husband plays his PlayStation. He plays his PlayStation, and I'm like, okay, go ahead. I don't care, because if he goes in there and he plays his PlayStation, I get to get my Meta Quest, and I can go. Yes, I do Meta Quest, and people are like, what? I was one of the girls that was in the game room,
playing
and
Pac-Man.
Centipede, and no, not Pac-Man,
Oh,
Centipede and Millipede. I was getting
wow.
it. I was the one they had to beat. But so that's me, and I have no problem. When social media came along, I remember I did MySpace, and after MySpace, but it took me a minute to get on Facebook. I was kind of like, I don't know, but I finally got Facebook, and then Instagram, and some of the other stuff. It's just the fact that, like, I think one of them, I don't do like Twitter or X or whatever that is, because I don't like the owner.
Mm.
So
You,
I
you,
don't
you,
do.
you and me both. I canceled my account for that same reason.
Yeah, I don't care for, I don't like the alien. Right. He looks like an alien. He
He
does.
does. He does. And like we talk about going to Mars. I'm like, oh, you going back home?
See, see, I ain't crazy. But I so I think I honestly believe social media to a certain degree is healthy, but you have to know when to stop. You have to. And there are sometimes, and I am guilty of it, I will find videos, and like my husband, him and my sister, they catch my videos because I send them to them. And then I have an uncle who is totally militant from Alabama. He is totally militant, and he sends me all this stuff, and it's like, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. Wow, I didn't know that. And he's in it's all his stuff, and his name is Galvesta. So he's one of them good old country boys. And I look, and it's like, wow, I finally figured out I found some people that look like me, Joy. My father's family, no joke. I I was the one with a different dad. So I found them. So it's just different. So social media for me has been a really good thing because it helped me put me back in touch with you
Yep. Yep.
years ago now. And there are some people, there are some people I found and I kind of left them where they were, you know, but social media, don't laugh, I tell you, it's the truth. It's some, and it's been good. I can say for the most part it's been good for me. I'm the one, like the grandkids, they come and they do the Sims. I still do the Sims. I've got every one of the Sims from Sims 2 to 5. Yes, I do. Because think about where I'm at. I'm in the middle of BFE, and there's nothing and nobody here.
Hmm. Well, I don't think
So,
I've ever did Sims. I tell you, did we
huh?
do Sims? I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
No. But social media for me has changed because I found myself too often down that rabbit hole. And you go from one video, you click on another one and another one and another one and another one. I literally have to stop myself. So I am not on social media like I used to be, intentionally, because you don't get off of it. And you will always find something else to watch, to
And you're like,
see.
how did I get here? What?
Yeah, so I don't. I intentionally, I'll go there and I take myself off of it. So, and I don't even think I go on once a day anymore. I don't think so.
Yeah. I think that's why I'm probably sleeping better now. I'm sleeping through the night.
Hmm.
I don't get up like I did.
Earlier
And,
you said that. Sorry, earlier you said that you were sleeping, but it wasn't restful. I'm finding that my sleep isn't restful either. Whereas I know that I am waking up.
mm-hmm.
I may not be getting up, but I am waking up. So my sleep is not sound. And I also have an alarm clock that has a heartbeat that doesn't allow me to sleep when I want to sleep. Her name is called Strawberry, right? um, Strawberry, when her tummy is telling her to eat, she's at my door. And so that's also another reason I think why I am not sleeping. But even outside of that, I'm not sleeping through the night restfully. So, and I think
Hmm.
that's more causing. That's probably stress related.
And it becomes stressful when you can't, if you can't sleep. That's like when your back hurts or your feet hurt, everything hurts. When you can't sleep, you don't function. It's not a good fit. It's not a good look when you know and these are from me not sleeping. I've always had them. So,
You and me both. If you talk about bags,
uh-huh.
I remember one of my students. I think they were. This is when I was teaching third grade, and I think one of my students. Now, mind you, I was definitely not sleeping, but one of my students had asked, like, why, what was the dark circles around my eyes. And another one said, who I had known him in pre-K, no, in kindergarten, first grade, and we were now in third grade. And he said, oh, that's just the way her eyes are. I'm like, oh, okay.
It's just her eyes.
But that's
It's,
what that, I mean, again, I wasn't sleeping. I
mm.
was not sleeping. And so I had like these horrible bags underneath my eyes. I will say that they're not as bad as they used to be because, again, I've been intentionally trying to go to sleep, trying
Mine's
to rest.
aren't dark anymore. They're just, I
Puffy?
still have the puffy,
Yeah. Yeah. But
but my face is fat, so.
One thing, one thing I loved about this book is how Tricia talks about rest as being more than just naps, and we talked about that a little bit earlier about how it has to be intentional, but she also broadens it to a more community aspect and how you have to essentially deepen it past the surface level. And she says numerous times that like it's more than apps, it's more than apps, it's more than sleeping. It's more, essentially it's more than just about you. And in what ways is resting as a form of resistance, or just like resting, especially as people from the Afro diaspora, how is that a part of social justice and a politics of refusal?
I think if you can't rest, you can't fight. You see what I mean? If I'm not rested, how am I going to fight? I can't. Not to, and when I say fight, it's not so much physically. It's mentally. How do I come to terms with dealing with you if I'm not on par. I'm not up, I'm not I need to be here, but I'm here because I'm not resting. And we were saying in my mother's house, all of us sleep. Okay, coming up, my husband said he has never seen such people. Who my sister tricked my niece into sleeping. She told her, she says, if you go to sleep now, when you wake up, you'll be even more beautiful. And my niece would go to sleep and she'd wake up and she says, Mommy, am I more beautiful? She says, you're always beautiful, just more beautiful because mommy got to sleep. And that, I don't know. It's it's different.
I definitely hard agree on the if you're well rested, then you can show up differently. Your brain can show up differently. And you're also able to think things through and parse things through. And this also goes back to what we said about survival and
Yes.
just opening up that part of your brain and your spirit to be able to be like, okay, something here is not okay. And I think a lot of us know that something's not okay, but if we're exhausted mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, then we don't have the
How do
capacity
we? Yeah,
to show up.
yeah.
I like that you brought in the spirit, because that's another part of her book that I really enjoyed. Atia, when she was talking about rest is connected to the different dimensions that we're made of. And I never really thought about it. But as a Christian, even the Bible talks about rest, and there's scripture that says rest with us, and we talk about how God rested on the seventh day. And sometimes we ignore that and we keep going and we don't rest, right? But just reading her book and reminding myself that rest is important and it's a part of what God wants us to do. It makes us, or it makes me, to be more, to make better decisions so that I am resting. And she also talked about like how resting includes imagination, using your imagination. Rest includes praying. Rest includes being still. And I like how she says that rest is not just, oh, now it's time to be lazy, or we're not going to just do work, but we are very mindful about taking a break and what we're doing during that break.
And protecting that break.
Yeah,
Because I was caught about when she said, when she would tell people, "Hey, I'm offline for the next month, 2 months, or whatever," and people would call, "Oh, I know you're not working, but can you do this thing because it's important to me?" And knowing your self worth and what you need to say, "Call me in 3 months," because I'm not doing that now.
exactly.
My
Um,
husband does that on the with his phone. He cuts off his phone. He totally there. He'll pick a weekend, and he's like, look, if y'all want to talk to me, call me before or after. I'm cutting off my phone, and he will turn
That's
his
really
phone
good.
off.
So he played no games.
Oh no, he will play his game, but he ain't talking to other people. But
so
he doesn't, he's not one of those people that likes to talk when he plays a game. He doesn't talk to the people. Mhm.
So what I had did when I sent out the invite to you all to come speak on this topic, I also invited Miss Hersey
Who?
and Miss Hersey, the author,
Okay.
and her response, it's probably an automated response. She said, she said, I pray this finds you well. Thank you for your message. Will you take a breath with me? As my priorities float between being connected to my body via rest and caring for a healthy balance with technology, I joyfully refuse a capitalistic pace with emails. This does not mean your email isn't important to me. I simply move at a slow, kind pace for what is mine to honor. And then she says, if you are writing regarding podcasts or book blurbs slash reviews, I no longer have capacity for them. I wish you much success. So
Mhm.
she is intentionally not giving her energy anyway, even though we may want to have a discussion with her about her book. She's choosing not to do that because apparently she was depleted from it. And she says, I do not answer emails on weekends or evenings and will respond to inquiries as my energy allows. Trust the divine timing of our connection.
Wow.
And I
Okay.
think that's important because you hear about people who they can never get away from their job. They're on
Mhm.
vacation and their
Right.
job is
Yeah.
reaching out to them. I was reading something and some of this stuff is all made up, but this woman was saying that she was like getting married that day and her boss called and was like, "Oh, but I need you. There's an emergency." She's like, "3 hours. I'm supposed to be at the church." Well, you can, and it was kind of like no, and it was like, "Well, if you can't do it, then don't come back." And was like, then I
Okay.
guess I'm not coming back because I'm getting married in three
Wow.
hours. And there was
Yeah,
like
I think
no
I've read a
respect.
story something similar to
Yeah.
that.
And there was just like no respect for her time. Um, so I think we have to protect that because it's real easy to kind of get into, let me just look at this email, let me just look at this text. And it's never anything. I mean, unless they're calling to say, hey, your house is on fire, get out. You know?
So I got a question. What did you all think? There was a section in there where she was talking about her dreams.
Mhm.
What was your intake? What was your take on that?
Well, it seemed to me she was doing what I've read in other books called like lucid dreaming, where you're like kind of part of the what's happening and able to like remember. Because I very rarely remember my dreams.
See,
Um,
I remember my dreams.
yeah, I mean, and it's usually I have to be really, really tired, and then I only remember like a part of it because as I'm dreaming, part of my mind will go, "Oh, this is a dream. This is not actually happening," and then I'll wake up. Um, But I mean, her dreamscape, I mean, having that space I thought was good, but the way her dreams, like, I don't want to be wrapped in something and feel, because to me, I'm like, that feels like that would be confining. But that worked for her,
Okay.
And again, I think what she's saying is we have to find what works for us.
Mhm.
Okay.
Um, I think just dreaming. I remember my dreams. I remember part of them. And I also, with some of my dreams, I know that I'm dreaming. And I know that, I know that I'm dreaming. I know I'm inside of my dream. So I don't know what that connection is, right? But I know that and I'd be asking myself in my dream, like, why are you here? Why are you in this space kind of thing? Or why am I experiencing it as I'm experiencing it? Like what is it? So I think dreaming consciously and subconsciously is important because I think it keeps us in touch with what we want maybe.
Mm.
And so her dreaming, she when she was explaining how she started with the dreaming and how she went and met somebody and they said you can have it. It was like she was only going to do it like for a first time, and it was like 24 hours. It reminded me of something that happened when Iyanla Van Zant, I don't know if it's when she started, but I know she was training people. And I met one of her trainees, and she came out to Mocha Moms, and all of the moms kind of came together, and we had like this session. It reminded me of that, where we all got together and we trusted the circle that we were in to kind of bear, no, I won't say bare our souls, because we didn't do that. I know I didn't. Right? Right? I'm going to trust you so much for what's going on in my head.
And then I gotta stop.
And but it was just a space that we could feel comfortable. And the rule was that we could not take whatever we heard and go outside with it. It had to stay
Mhm.
there. So that's when she was talking about that. It kind of reminded me of that particular exercise. And I think that we all need to be able to be in a space that's safe, where we can kind of say things and feel
Mhm.
things and know that it's not going to be used against us, I guess, in a sense, and or held, or we're not going to be held hostage because we shared something, one of our deepest thoughts or feelings. And I think that we all kind of need that space. I'm not sure how we would create that, but I think we need it.
Well, I can say some of the things that, like, that trust, because I've said some things in here, that I probably wouldn't have said anywhere else, but I trust y'all, you know, and I do. That one up there, right across from me, I really trust her. She has been a godsend. She's taught me how to be a friend again, because for so long I've been a loner. And I think she knows this, y'all. And she keeps pulling me out. she won't leave me alone.
You got to be my ride and ride.
And I love her for it. It is appreciated. There's some I'll tell you y'all something, and it was really weird. Something she said. Now, I understood when she said at the church, because when my family church, you know, we're from the South and we're from the deep South. So there are certain things. I understand tarrying on the altar. A lot of people don't know what that means. That's them people that get on the altar and they're calling on the name of Jesus, and they're waiting for a breakthrough. And when they're tarrying, have you seen those things where the ladies or even the men fall out and
Mhm.
stuff? That's tarrying on the altar, and they're like it. Yeah, it can be it can be intense. I remember that. I remember there was a part when I remember reading it, when it said that it was nothing to see, you know, these people falling out, and at the end of the night, all of these white towels or white sheets, because all these ladies are falling out, or they're laying out in the spirit, and they had to cover them up because their dresses and went up. And that's what she was looking at. It was really weird when she says about dreaming. I had the weirdest dream one time, and I've never had that dream again, but I remembered it. And what I remember, and I never knew until years later what it was I was dreaming about. And I was dreaming about Seneca Village.
Hmm.
I remember this man. It was an older black man, and he was standing there, and he was upset, and he said, "Yeah, you're in the middle of Seneca Village. It's not going to be ours anymore." And years later, when I found out what it was, I was like, "Oh, okay." That was just weird to me. And somebody just told me I was just open to learning different things. I was like, okay, whatever that means.
What would a healthier relationship with rest look like for you in your body, in your home, in your routine, in your relationships, in the way you speak to yourself?
Girl, my house would be clean, would be spotless. Because it's just us. you know. But most of my time is spent out in my garden. So my awake time, my free time, um, I'm either sitting on that sofa where I normally sit for my meetings, for our meetings, or I'm outside in the garden now in the summertime. Um, I think for my relationship, I know I've been blessed. I have truly been blessed.
Now, this is your relationship with rest. I don't know if I said that. Did I say with rest?
No, with Pete, because it correlates with the two.
Okay.
My relationship with If my relationship with rest is better, it makes it better with him as well. I
Okay.
think we could communicate a little bit better, a little bit more. I'm good at starting a conversation in the middle. A sentence. That's a New York thing, I honestly believe.
Okay.
I do.
Is
But
it a New York thing or a BK thing? Because I do that
a
too.
Brooklyn thing, you do that too?
Okay.
That's a Brooklyn thing. Okay. But I I don't know. I think I'd be more here, more present, more able to, you know, I'd be more me. Now, I don't know how anyone would like that. Because, and when I say that, is I can be a bit much. I am me. I'm out there. I'm bold. But I'm quiet as well. And Joyce knows that Joyce was amazed that I was a corrections officer. She didn't understand how did that happen. But I think I think I'd be I think I'd be more fully in the moment. I think I'd be more fully me. I'd be happier
Okay.
if I was well rested. Not just enough sleep, but well rested.
Can you repeat the question?
You
Just so I
said, can
make
I repeat
sure.
the question?
Yeah.
All right. What would a healthier relationship with rest look like for you in your body, in your home, in your routine, in your relationships, in the way you speak to yourself?
Hmm. It would be not feeling guilty about not checking everything off of my to-do list for the day or for the week, and not necessarily needing to be productive, and just doing things because, like, I want to do them and I'm alive and I have that right just by existing. Like, if I and I had to kind of train myself. I started crocheting last year, and I made a blanket. That was fun. And there was before I started making the blanket, there was a teaching you how to crochet kit. I made a bumblebee, and I was like, okay, like I can't really do anything with this, but it's teaching me how to crochet. So that's the oh, very nice. That is the reason for it. And now I'm making wisteria flowers, and I wasn't going to because I was like, what are these for? And I was like, Tia, they're because they make you happy. Like that literally can be enough.
Yes.
They're
Mm,
pretty and I like them.
mhm.
And your mother has my address.
Robin, what do you think? What does it look like for you?
I think actually just setting some time aside to say I'm going to engage in restful activities, and whatever I determine that to be, whether it's spending time doing devotionals or saying I'm going to go someplace and gaze at the ocean or just spend some time under a canopy of trees, and carving that time out and just saying that it's okay and that I'm enough and I don't need anyone's approval or permission in order to take that time for myself. Um, I mean, I don't know that I need a special place within my home. I mean, because I think it could just be, it's internal. Uh, so that's it.
All right. For me,
I want to try to answer it before we go
okay.
underground. I'm so sorry. Can you hear me?
No, 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 no. Yes, we can. We can.
Okay. I just wanted to quickly say that I agree with what uh, Miss Greer said and what Miss Atia said, but I also want to add that for me, it's about understanding that I'm not connected to money as well. So I don't need money to rest.
Mm. And I think that that's part of the whole premise of this book
Mm-hmm.
with the capitalism and the white supremacy, that we have been so trained, we have been so brainwashed to believe that in order to have anything, and anything meaning a home, a car, food, that we need money, and we do, but and that's why we are so focused on how to make money at any means necessary. And I'm saying me, right? I'm talking about me right now, right? That like Robin said, all the different things that I do, and all the hustling that I do, because that's what I call it, all side hustles, right? Sometimes they're full hustles, but side hustles, that we are tied to the thought process that in order for us to survive, in order for us to have a home, in order for us to have a vehicle, that we have to have an income coming in. And I have not been able to tap into my God given purpose to create, so that my creativity will give me that, will give me the income, and I don't have to go out here and into the grind culture, let's say, and work until I am can't work anymore to have the things that I say I need. And the things that I do need, I need to pay the mortgage, right? I need to put gas in the car. So I would like to change my relationship with just thinking that money has to be flowing in such a way. But I also want to change how the money flows, because I need for it to come from me. I need it to be from here,
Hmm.
and not that I'm out there working for someone else, because as I'm working for someone else, I'm putting more money in their pocket than I'm putting in mine.
Mhm.
And so I need to change that relationship. And in the way I speak to myself, I think mm, I need to be more confident. Well, while I appear to be confident, there's this thing in the back that is saying something else. And I need to get away from that. I need to get away from that. I remember one of my friends from college, and she had said to me, she said, "You are afraid of success." And I'm telling you, if she only knew how much she's in my head all the time. That, and she was saying that because I would start something and I would get this close and I would stop it.
Hmm.
And again, she's in my head all the time, if she only knew. And so I'm working on changing that. And so that's how I would change a healthier relationship. I think more so would be in how I'm speaking to myself, but also I need to rest more. And that's just hands down. I just need to rest, and not just sleep, but rest. And as you can
Consciously
see,
rest.
intentionally and consciously rest. And as you see, someone has made their presence known in our conversation.
Strawberry.
um, so now, if our relationship with rest did not just happen, that means we can change it, right? And maybe with us looking at a healthier relationship with rest, maybe that's how we're going to change it. What do you think?
You have to, I think, like if you said, it has to be intentional. It has to be intentional. You have to carve out that time for it. And it you just got you if that's what we want, we've just got to do it. There's no way around it.
Yeah, you have to be consistent.
Okay.
I used to have a sleep journal. I probably need one again. I did. It's like okay. Oh, and I used to have a sleep journal, but I also used to write down my dreams. I don't know why I did it, but I did. I stopped doing that though.
All right. So I think we have exhausted, I think, maybe not. Um, but I want to thank Yvette, Robin, Gina, Ashe, April, and Atia for your input on this timely topic. And I hope you get some much needed rest. I'm going to try. And if anything I've said resonated with you, a thought, a feeling, a moment of clarity, I would like for you to like, comment, subscribe, and share the reflection with others. And before we close, a quick reminder, this isn't therapy or medical advice. It's a moment to pause and reconnect with yourself. And know that this conversation isn't over. Meet me on whatever platform you're listening on. Share your thoughts in the comment section. I highly recommend you read the book Rest is Resistance by Tricia Hersey. And just let us know what you think. And if anything she said in there, if you put anything into practice, I would like for you to just share that.
Take a moment to visit and support our sponsors. You know that feeling when you make a choice that puts your life in a tailspin and the future suddenly feels both thrilling and uncertain. That's the heart of By Way of Yinka's new ebook, No Pot in Sight, but Still I Must Go. It's full of genuine stories and practical steps for the emotional and financial fallout of a big career move. It's the kind of book that holds your hand through the uncertain moments and helps you find the next step. You will also get a free financial grounding kit that includes budget and debt payoff sheets. Visit nopotinsight.com to purchase your copy.
And thank you for joining us. This is Words on a Higher Note, where reflection meets elevation, where grace meets growth, where personal evolution is not rushed, but embraced, honored, and celebrated. Until next time, keep listening for the higher note. Say, be, and it is. Bye, people. Thank you again.
All right.